Hi, everyone. It's the Plant-Based Business Hour. I'm Elysabeth Alfano. It's great to be back with you again in fall. How did it get to be fall? Fall's already killing me. It's so busy. It's busier than I thought it would be. Food systems transformation, hot on the wire. Yes, I know you maybe do not believe me because what you're seeing in the news, but I'll tell you where I am. I'm seeing something very different, which is why I wanted to bring on my guest today, Jamie Valenti-Jordan. He is the founder of Catapult Commercialization Services, and I'm glad to have him with me. Jamie, how are you today?
Doing great, doing great. Always happy to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, let's just dive into this. I'm seeing a much greater interest in food systems transformation, and I'm seeing it from different venues than where I saw it before. So before I was seeing it in the VC world, they were really thinking that there was an opportunity here, but now I'm seeing it from government services, philanthropic services, investment circles, climate circles, innovation circles, technology circles, all under the umbrella of climate impact and investing for climate impact and food tech really as climate tech. So I'm seeing interest in the topic. Now it's going to take a little while for that to dribble down, but let's say it does dribble down. One of the unfortunate aspects of COVID, there were quite a few actually, but one of the very unfortunate ones for our sector is that the infrastructure build out wasn't there to actually care for demand. And then people got back to their lives and maybe were a little less interested in healthy eating and demand fell off. But would we have kept more of those consumers had we been really ready for them? So my point is, as we move into what I see in 25, 26, 27 will be the second wave of sustainable food systems transformation. Will we be ready? And what will it take for us to be ready? So before you answer these questions, let's first really underscore what Catapult Commercialization Services is so that everyone can know your expertise. And then let's dive into building out the supply chain.
Absolutely. Catapult Commercialization Services is a group of experts from the field in the food industry. There are 80 of us spread across the U.S. We are focused on enabling these kind of transformational technologies through, frankly, consulting. So we work with folks that are very early on. We work with groups that are looking to transform their existing brands or their 100-year companies. But we work with them on the level of trying to fully build out concepts and then execute them. So that what I mean by that is we're looking at not only trends and things like that, but we have 40 product developers on the team to build things out. We're looking at how to deploy new ingredients. We're building out, new processing technologies and packaging. And then we're working with manufacturers on site. We're redesigning. We're building 3 plants right now across the U.S. So we're really on the forefront of trying to take everything all the way to the finish line here.
It's awesome. Okay, well, let's dive in. Already you've given me so much to unpack. 3 plants, I imagine it's confidential, but what can you share about that? Are they plants specific to, let's say, the non-animal sector, or are you just seeing this in general in the food world?
There's a lot more going on in the food world. I think it's bolstered. There's kind of indicator groups that are out there where there's high ROI on these investments, things like that. Once those start going, then we see a lot more movement within the kind of fuzzy front end sector. So we see a lot more movement with horse trading with different facilities that have been built out that have excess capacity now on the plant-based and the myco side and things like that are looking for how to house some of those new concepts in-house in their own facilities as a form of contract manufacturing, even within the space now. So we see a lot of movement within, let's say, artisanal caramels at the moment. And we see frozen food facilities beginning built as well for service to a new market and things like that we did not see 12 months ago. And because those indicators weren't there, we knew that the decline of the plant-based was more an indicator of the market as a whole than it was of the plant-based sector as a unique element. And so now that we're seeing that return, we're seeing more interest and more investment and more Frankly, I'm getting more phone calls about, hey, do you know people who are working in this type of protein sector for the specific purpose of trying to help them get to the next stage.
Okay, so let's even be more specific than that. So, when
Mhm.
you're talking about a certain kind of protein, you're talking
Mhm.
about diversified proteins and how this can work into the supply chain of existing products or novel products.
Um, mostly novel products. I'd say that there's existing product modifications that are kind of being pitched out there. There's not consumer demand to pull those all the way through. The brands that are looking to kind of retrofit their existing proteins. So what you see is, in the absence of that, a lot more novel kind of products being put out there, leveraging these new protein technologies as proof of concepts and proof of value in the marketplace.
I think that's interesting. So right now, because this is sort of what I've been predicting for a while now. So right now, it's kind of driven by the companies themselves wanting to diversify proteins. And might you know what this is attributed to? Is it that they want a more sustainable supply chain? So, you bring down your carbon footprint quite a lot when you diversify to non-animal proteins.
I think it's there's a narrative that takes place when a brand is going through a certain evolution, and effectively what they're looking for now is ways to build value onto their existing brand. So let's be a little more specific. Let's pick a brand at random and say let's pick Nabisco. Nabisco's not around anymore, or whatever. But let's pick Nabisco, and let's say that Nabisco has gone through the Industrial Revolution, and it's been here forever, and they need to inject some additional excitement around their brand because it's being eroded on all edges by these little niche products all over everywhere, right? So in order to inject as a defensive maneuver, they're having to inject additional kind of storylines, narratives by improving their carbon footprints. And then we've seen this all throughout the sector, which is why I'm picking on Nabisco in particular. But we've seen kind of these improvements, and that's what's driving that kind of innovation that we've always wanted to do from the technical side of things, that we haven't been able to do because there hasn't been an ROI to justify it. Now that there's an ROI, because we can recapture those market segments by fending off these kind of niche brands, that ends up being an ROI in of itself to justify evolving the brand and making it better.
So I think that's interesting. If I can recap, are you sort of saying bringing classic brands into the year 2025? Or, anticipating bringing them into 2030, these kind of keeping them relevant? Is that right? Is that
That's
what's
right.
sort of driving this innovation?
Returning them to relevance, especially as our generational shifts take place. We've been focused on millennials for a very long time, but Gen Alpha has purchasing power now, right? And it's substantial, and it grows every year, right? So what Gen Alpha is interested in is going to become more and more of interest, and Gen Z, right? Gen Z's in the middle there. But Gen Alpha is even starting to get purchasing power. Gen Z is very much following a similar trend as where millennials went. As much as they don't want to admit it, they are. But Gen Alpha is really kind of pushing the bottom half of Gen Z in a different direction, which is around a story and a narrative being present in every purchase.
Gen Alpha's looking for a story in every purchase. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. And the marketing around that is just a marketer's dream. I mean, that's really fun. So when you say story, would this be, and I know this maybe isn't your forte or where you focus, but I love to focus on some of the marketing. So is
Mhm.
this data driven stories, or are they aspirational stories? Data driven being X% less carbon footprint. Aspirational is get you into your swimsuit or
So
lead
for
the world.
sure, it's gonna be data driven, especially the larger the organization is, because if it's just aspirational, it comes off as inauthentic,
Oh,
right? And so the data is necessary to be present um, in that narrative, or else it really just doesn't resonate with the intended targets. Um, Anybody can write an aspirational on some
Yeah.
level, but the larger brands, if they're going to make this pivot, have to have the data to back it up, or it is going to be it's really going to fall flat.
Hmm. And I'm guessing that you're seeing the revitalization happen mostly with the larger brands. Although you did mention that you're having novel products come through and come to your attention.
Right. And so those novel products are the ones that are attacking those large heritage brands at the niche, at the edge, fighting for that last 5%, which the 5% for a niche brand is substantial. That's
Huge.
10x, 100x growth
Yeah.
type of thing. But for a large established brand, that's all their margin. Um, that's all the surplus that they had in the system. They're now breaking even because of the way that they've built their systems and things like that. So they're really energized to actually recapture this and follow the market where it's leading them. As much as we, blame large brands for doing X, Y, Z, they have to follow the market. So now that the market is moving, they can move too. They're unlocked. They're no longer shackled.
Okay. Um, you're talking about a moving market, which is so fascinating because every conversation that I have, except on this show, but when I'm out at conferences, et cetera, everyone is in this doom and gloom valley of death. And I'm seeing something very different, as I alluded to earlier in this podcast, in the philanthropic, government, Wall Street arenas, where they're talking about food systems as being a financial opportunity given its impact on the environment. So there's a win-win there. Would you say that we're in the valley of death? Yes.
I would say actually that some of that is energized by these larger companies investing in some of those government or collaborative institutions in order to develop those food system programs that'll enable them and the whole system to change, right? So there's actually a return to value of saying, hey, we put $500,000 in there to try to do this. We're not just screwing around on like rearranging our numbers to get carbon savings or whatever. We're actually investing actual dollars in doing this. That's a narrative in of itself. And I think that's part of the revitalization that we're seeing and all of this movement outside of the VC and startup sector, right?
So let's talk about that because you use the word revitalization, which I just think many people would be like, huh? What? What are they talking about? I thought it was dead. So are we in the valley of death now? Or have we exited the valley of death? And when did this revitalization start?
Sure. Yeah. So I would say it started the third week of April.
That's a joke, everybody.
Almost not.
Oh, really?
Yeah. After Q1 came back and everyone started opening things up, beginning of Q2, by the time deals started happening and movement started happening, literally third week of April 2024 is really where I see us having substantially started our climb back out. We are still in a valley, but the indicators are almost across the board positive. And that's weird because you don't see that often. The last time we saw that was when all the PPP funds started happening. And everybody started getting compensated and EIDL kicked in and ERTC and all that stuff. So suddenly there was a lot of cash. Interest rates were negligible, right? And so it made sense to just drop some money into the industry. And so a lot of people did. I think they overextended a little bit, but hey, neither here nor there. But at the end of the day, there's a lot more positive indicators right now. And the interesting thing is that they're not off the charts positive. They're like 10, 15, 20% above status, above a stasis. I mean, so they're what I would consider to be healthy growth indicators, meaning we're going into an extended growth period, probably 2 to 3 years pretty easily, assuming no major, global events pull us back from the edge again. But I think we're a lot smarter. And the firms that I've talked to are looking at not kind of base level technology investment, what they're looking at is where are the growth opportunities for things that actually panned out. So they're making very intelligent investments, cutting back from investing in 100 companies and hoping 10 pay off to dropping twice as much with 3 companies that they've actually spent more time researching because there wasn't a race to the finish line for funding, right? So I see deals taking longer, which is actually a good indicator, so long as they actually close. So with all of those sorts of things, I see a slow build that will actually change the food industry. I think what happened is everyone saw blood in the water
And ran.
and went nuts, right? And when you go nuts, things break, and that's fine. Things broke, and now we're walking back to listening to our technical insights and things like that to be able to build appropriate value with the groups that are out there. So.
And for those who are new to this topic, the food system as we currently know it is broken. So not having a system that feeds more people more nutritiously using fewer resources in a shorter amount of time while creating less damage, not solving for that equation isn't an option. Because so this isn't something we do out of capriciousness because it's a folly. This is because what we have currently isn't working. So it does have some time crunch elements to it because we really can't carry on. We maybe in the US can, but not being able to feed India, China, Africa. These are incredible national security pressures. People don't hang around when they don't have food. They tend to go where there is food. So it does put pressure on other countries. You do want to feed everyone around the globe. So that just the climate time element. So I'm not surprised to see these kind of pressures building up and that food systems is becoming an area of interest again. So when you said that these companies that are investing more in R&D on that which worked, can you share with us which areas they're investing in?
Sure. So these are just the ones anecdotally that I'm aware of. I don't have a full read on the investment sector as a whole. But from what I've seen a, looking at value added, not just crumbles, but like value added proteins. So texturized proteins carrying fat and flavor and things like that. I've seen integration between, I really called the last wave like wave 1 of,
I do too.
Really wave 2 of novel proteins, right? The next wave is tying in the mushroom, tying in the pea, and maybe a lupini bean or something, like the handful of mint, and build a better system together rather than relying on wheat, soy, pea, and that's about it. So I think we're seeing an emergence and development of a lot more options. I think we're still trying to figure out, and this is where the R&D effort is how do we build a superior product and continue to make it more and more superior going forward. That's what I'm seeing on the plant-based protein side. There's still discussions around fortification of proteins in a variety of different products. There's work on a variety of different milks, and we've seen the full spectrum of everything you can possibly think of.
Yes, we have.
From trying to molecularly regenerate milk from a non-bovine source to all the plant-based milks being worked together, and a variety of things even in between those two, which is very cool to think that we're thinking that off the charts. We're going to reach a point of over niching, I think, in some of these sectors where we're going to have a collapse on the number of products on shelf that are possible. And there'll be some M&A that happens around that, and some SKU rationalization, which is another way of saying it ain't selling, so we're pulling it. But there'll be a lot of that kind of happens in, I think, the next 18 months, really.
I thought we would have seen more M&A by now.
Yeah. I think what happened with the Valley of Death was what slowed down the M&A, but there were a few that took place in there. They were notable, but they were small.
They were small.
Yeah, but I think this table, I think the dominoes are a little further apart now. So when we get one, it won't necessarily cascade to all of them. I think the way we had set the table previously, there were so many dominoes on the table that
Yeah.
if people didn't pull them off one at a time, the whole thing was going to fall down. I
Yeah.
think we've bypassed that. I think now M&A will be much more intelligent, where there's actual synergies between the organizations rather than trying to just stick them all underneath one head,
Yeah.
which would be good.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so what are you seeing out there that excites you? I mean, this is pretty exciting already to just not even be talking about the Valley of Death and how bad things are, but just to say that there's revitalization out there. There's more money coming in out there. There's an interest from the large scale firms. There's also at the same time novel products coming that are using some very interesting R&D, that are getting some funding, probably few and far between, but still getting some funding. So what else are you seeing out there in the positive and in the negative?
Sure. I think being an engineer, I'll go negative first because that's what we do. I will start with I think the debate over ultra processed foods is still forming. I know that there were some recent publications and things like that about it. There's certainly a lot there, but there's also a lot that's misrepresented
Yes.
from a scientific perspective, which is interesting because there's not as much misinformation in other areas at the moment. So we don't have as much debate about, let's say, saturated fats, and things like that. We're not seeing the fight over salt anymore. We're not seeing the fight over a lot of different things that we had previously seen a lot of argument about. That now we're in a kind of a different space. It's not that we fully trust science. We certainly don't fully trust the industry, but we're listening more, right?
Who's
There's
the we here?
That's a good question. I'd say both the technical sector, the technical food scientists are listening more to what's coming in, but also is able to communicate better to the general populace around what is true, what is false, and what's marketing. So being able to decode what is being said to prevent somebody from coming to the conclusion that eating one Oreo will kill you. Eating one Oreo will not kill you. Eating 100 million Oreos a year will kill you. What's in between? Okay. There's certainly a middle ground in that, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the next wave of interesting research will be overlaying this concept of personalized nutrition with gut health with AI, where you can actually get personalized recommendations for what works for your metabolism based off of, I mean, as scary as it sounds, somebody's out there is going to say, well, pull in your medical records. They're yours, right?
Yes.
And let AI digest what it is that works best for you. That's the scary utopian, 20 years from now type of thing where, this is my diet set and I'm going to go eat this because my AI food bot told me to eat it, right? It's going to be a bit interesting.
I don't know that that's so scary. I mean, right now, doctors who have no nutritional education, doctors get about on average 4 hours of nutritional education in their 8 years of study. They get about 4 hours. And they're out there saying, oh, go ahead, eat meat, you need it. I mean, based on what? So I don't know that AI is any more scary than the doctor who has no education on nutrition, just spouting at will. So I'm very excited about that. That personalized nutrition has been around for a while as a concept. I remember in my venture portfolio looking at some options as early as, 2019.
Mhm.
So I think that's going to be very interesting. And I think that people can get information down to their particular data set is really unique. And I trust the data there. And that's good that we'll be going for data and
Yep.
not marketing stories. So I think that is inspirational in terms of better health opportunities.
And that's the interesting thing, because AI is able to put people in more than like 4 or 8 buckets to pick. I mean, like Weight Watchers, right? There's like 4 types of people or whatever. And so you prescribe a plan for them based off of their BMI and things like that. Yeah, there's a lot more facets to that.
Yeah.
Do I think AI is going to get it right right off the bat? Not a chance. But I think that zeroing in over time and being self-referential, it's not going to develop like 15 different types of profiles for people. It'll develop 15 million, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Very exciting.
yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a big area of growth. And yeah, I think it's a big area of growth. Um, Let me see here. Do you feel comfortable? Oh, well, that was the negative. You were going to go positive, or maybe that was positive as well. The nutrition was positive. Okay. Because you said scary AI in there. So, okay.
Sure.
AI kind of bringing you to some positivity, oddly. Do you feel like making predictions? What do you see for in the short term? I used to, when I started the show, I used to say 10 years, then I moved to 5, but now it's 3. What
Sure.
predictions are you making for 3 years?
3 years is about as far as I'd want to make any predictions at this point. Stuff's changing so fast. I think we see there's been a boom in mushrooms and exploration in there. I think most of the developments have not been fully novel. There's been a few that have been exceptionally novel, but I think integrating that um, in with the plant-based textural profiles, because the mushrooms are lacking. Um, but we've almost gotten there with our, let's say, um, our architecture, our beams and things like that, made out of our different protein sets that we've cross-linked through an extruder and things like that. We'll be able to overlay and integrate our mushroom systems into that to get to a fully satisfying, full profile flavor, um, to mimic this meat. The question is, should we? But fine. But we will have the opportunity to do so, and I think that's the horizon for 3 years. Is really trying to tie multiple bits of the technology that's come in the last 5 to 7 years together in order to make a superior product that, again, is going to. It's not going to be full use, but it won't be single use. It'll be multi-purpose, right? So what I mean by that is, we made these crumbles out of TVP, and they were great, but you couldn't glue them together to make a steak, right? And no one thought you should or could, but people were disappointed that there was an open white space. So they took those crumbles, they glued them together and made a burger patty. Cool. That's one step better, but you couldn't take those, in some cases, you couldn't take those burger patties and chop them back down into crumbles. Again, we're making like individual use cases, which is
I
fun.
see.
Yeah. But I think we'll see more multi-purpose use. So you can slice it and make stir fry, or you can put it in a pan and make a steak analog, or you can deep fry it and it won't fall apart on you, and things like you can put it in multiple different formats. But it's not going to be ubiquitous. It's not going to be meat in a chub, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it's not going to be meat in a pill. It's not going to be Jetsons, but like, we're going to get a lot. I've seen people trying to put it in a 3D printer and be like, I can make anything with it. Not well. Not well yet, at least. But anyway, so like, there's a lot of horizon there, especially in the plant-based side of things, on the protein side, to get to what I call it really like phase 4 evolution, right? We're taking multiple technologies from multiple kingdoms and gluing them back together to try to make something that we're really going to be focused on the sensory aspect, and not so much what it. I think there's something to be said about just focusing on the sensory aspect to make sure we nail it, and then we try to walk back cost, right? You got these $10,000 burgers and stuff like that. That's
Right.
cool, great. You're still not hitting it, right? So why
Yeah.
bother, right?
Yeah.
And I know, yes, so that it gets cheaper. We've developed technology, you can get there, blah 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 blah. I don't think we're going to see large scale of deployment of cellular agriculture, right? Or lab grown meats. I don't think we're going to see that in 3 years.
No, gosh, no. You're looking at 8 to 10.
Yeah, I think that's closer to right, which is fine. Some people want to play that long game, but there's going to be a lot of people who enter that space between now and then that are going to exit that space as well. I wouldn't be investing in it anytime soon. I'd focus on something near closer in, so that when the right opportunity has been revealed 3 to 5 years from now, when I can cash out of my existing
I can
investment,
go into cultivated.
go into what I know is going to succeed at that point.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting. I'll add my prediction as you talk about recapturing that 5% that maybe was lost to novel products, such like Beyond Meat and Impossible and others. There will be more corporate incentive to spend on R&D and to move that needle faster as 2025 5-year plans get written in Q3, finalized by Q3 2025, and there'll be refocused attention on sustainability, not coming from the consumer pull through, but coming from the corporate push of the metrics they're being held to and held accountable for. And I think as we get to be a more transparent supply chain with AI, blockchain, et cetera, that will only increase, and corporations will be willing to spend on R&D and to move the needle faster to get the results of those better climate metrics that come with these novel innovations. So they're already in the novel innovations or enhancements to recapture market share, but climate change is going to quicken the time frame.
I really hope you're right. From what I've seen, it from the inside of things, there's not a whole lot of long-term.
It hasn't hit yet.
Yeah,
but it's coming.
I hope so. I'll see it when all of my colleagues start posting all the positions that they need to hire for in order to make that happen. Yeah.
I think it'll come in. This is my prediction. So getting down to almost the nitty gritty, like your third week of April. I think it's going to be in writing Q3 25. You're going to feel the execution of that by Q1 26.
Sure.
So, solid year and a half out. Solid. 18 to 20 months out.
So my advice for my colleagues that are watching would be start writing those job descriptions of folks you want to hire now, because when it comes, it'll be hiring 3 or 4 people at a time.
Yes, and it will be like the job of the year. That will be like, I do think that's coming. Okay, some quick exit questions for you. I used to ask this question also 10 years ago. You can change it to 5 or 7 or whatever you would like. What do you wish you knew 10 years ago that you know now?
COVID was going to hit. I would have made some very interesting and different choices, I think, knowing that was on the horizon. But no, I think knowing that the horizon was as positive as I see it right now. Like, there's 10 years ago, I think plant-based was very much still a term in development even.
Yes, correct.
I mean, 10 years ago, we didn't have the term plant-based. It was vegan, right? And we talked about really just re-niching the same niche over and over again, not growing the pie by imploring the general populace to look at flexitarian once a week type of thing, just to explore, right? And I think that's it would be good to know that the work that we did, 10 years ago would have been 10 years ago would have been before I even joined Hampton Creek. So to know that was a horizon to go to, I might have I would have made some interesting different choices.
Yeah, that's fun to talk about it that way. I think the flexitarian consumer is going to take renewed interest for the large corporates who
Mhm.
maybe previously didn't believe that was really an avenue of growth. And I think that's going to be a big avenue of growth. And all it's going to take is a little bit of advertising dollars to say, look how manly it is to care about the environment, or look how manly it is to eat vegetables, or look at, just a little bit of advertising dollars on that. And you're going to have quick consumer buy-in. So I think it's when the dominoes fall, different set of dominoes now we're talking about, but when the dominoes fall for food systems transformation as a whole, they're going to go really quickly.
You'll know that it's here when Hormel puts out, hey, sometimes you feel like meat, sometimes you don't. Why don't you, decide what you want and then have it? We have both of them, by the way, and they're both done with Hormel quality, right? That
Yes.
is
Hormel Gift Program.
Yeah. Well,
but they have some of that already. Don't they put out Jimmy Dean, which has some plant-based?
They do. Yeah.
They do.
They start marketing as, hey, make the right choice for you and your family on the days that it makes sense. Either way, Jimmy Dean's your partner along the way. I think that's when we'll know that the dominoes have kind of fallen and we've moved on from, the occasional flexitarian with the millennial on average to a more intentional flexitarian with Gen Z, which, Gen Alpha is like, I don't care. It tastes good. I'm eating it. Right.
Yeah. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Well, when do you think we'll see that campaign from Hormel or anyone else?
Well, if they're watching, probably about 12 to 18 months from now.
Okay, that's well said, sir. Okay, you are having a busy day and it's actually not going the way you would like it. What is the phrase you tell yourself to get yourself back in the groove?
Every step is a step along the journey to change. We don't get there alone. We don't get there quickly, but we get there.
Amen, amen, amen. Same bad day, but this time you didn't have time for lunch. What is your go-to snack?
I didn't have lunch. So
what's your go-to snack?
I don't want to say because it's I have some beef jerky rounds in the back corner over there that I snack on one or two of them.
So I'm going to send you. Have you ever had All Y'all's jerky? God, I love them.
All Y'all's, I've sampled it, but I don't think I've had it.
Oh my word. God, I love that company, All Y'all's Jerky. So
okay.
They're out of Texas and they do like 4 or 5 SKUs of flavors. Salt and pepper is my favorite, but there's a pear chipotle and a pear teriyaki and a churro flavor. And then they do bacon bits. So we'll have to see that you can get your hands on some. That would be awesome.
All my former clients that are currently screaming at me, hey, name drop me. I can't name drop one of you without name dropping all of you.
All of you. So no. Okay. So fair enough. I did the name dropping. It happened. And I'll say something interesting. All Y'all's has kind of taken the female jerky market. Now that I think is cool and forward looking. Mostly people don't think of jerky as being a female product, but because it's only like 300 calories a bag and it's clean label, it's goes right for the female audience. So that's a double
and the
whammy.
level of satiety with that level of protein and salt being present with that minuscule amount of fat, you get a high level of satiety for a very low number of calories on a per calorie basis. So that's why I use it. I'm still losing some weight. I'm down 15 pounds, but yep. But I get it. I understand that placement. It's a good move.
Good move, right? Good move. As this podcast has been, good move us. I'm so glad I had you. You and I were in Chicago together. Gosh, was it Future Food Tech in June? And you and I were the only ones on the panel saying, wait, we see a different future than everybody else sees. And I thought, well, this guy's got to come on my podcast. So I'm glad that you shared your knowledge and expertise. Of course, you are the founder of Catapult Commercialization Services. If anybody wants to find you, you are on LinkedIn. What is another way to find you?
Well, you can always hunt down Catapult and email us there at leadership@catapultserve.com. That will go to my personal inbox as well as my team. I am also over at the Food Finance Institute over at the Universities of Wisconsin. If you are looking for, let's say, additional training in how the food industry works, or how to build a profitable food business, that might be your best choice for education. So definitely look me up in either location. I'm also on the board of directors of IFT. If you ever wanted to know a little bit more about the Institute of Food Technologists, happy to help out there. But yeah, probably LinkedIn's the best place. Oh, I also, and I'm going to throw a shout out here, Startup CPG is a network of over, I think, 25,000 people now looking to just kind of reinforce each other, not primarily, well, primarily in food, but not universally in food, on helping them build brands. I'm on there on the operations channel, literally on this screen right here. I've got 13 screens up, by the way. I'm monitoring everything in the world right now. Yeah, I want to show you the yarn and push pins back behind the screen. And I got a lot going on, guys. But no, I think, reach out, let's chat. Like, I'm open for anybody. For the longest time, I had my cell phone on the website until I got too many spam calls. I took it down.
Do not do that.
But no, but I mean, I want to be accessible. I want to be at the grassroots. I had somebody just call me. That's why I was late 5 minutes to this meeting, because they had a completely new idea that they needed to run by me right now. Okay, I'll take that call.
Everybody, you have your marching orders, LinkedIn, websites. He is accessible and he is a wealth of knowledge. So, of course, you can find either of us on LinkedIn, myself as well. Always happy to help everyone. I want to say thank you to Jamie Valenti-Jordan. You don't go away, but everybody else on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, I will see you all next week. Bye, everybody.